Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. We have got a really fun DIY technique today where we are going to make our own stamps because this is a fun and really simple process. So you're not going to need many supplies for this at all, but I do use kids fun foam. Now I find that the 3mm thick is the best. However, if you have 2mm, that works perfectly fine, and if you feel like you need a bit more dimension, then feel free to double them up and just add one on top of the other or stick two pieces together. If you have 1mm, I find that that is a little bit thin. That's better for kind of making flowers and things like that. So either 2 or 3mm thick tends to work the best. So I have a couple of scraps here and I'm going to cut these. I think I end up making this 1.5 by 1.5 inches square, so I'm just making a little square. And even if your trimmer doesn't trim all the way through, I find that I can kind of rip it and it just rips cleanly down that line. As I said, this is the 3mm, so that's quite thick. I'm taking a ballpoint pen and a ruler and I'm just going to draw some stripes across my square. Now if you have something like a stylus or a little rounded ball for shaping flowers and things like that, then that would work well, because I'm using a pen here and I'm actually, this is a blue ballpoint pen, and I'm actually putting blue ink on there. So later on you will kind of see this show up when I do some orange, but if you choose not to do that, then that would work out much better for you. Or if you just have anything kind of nice and rounded with a pointy end, you're going to be able to make these marks across the foam. They don't even have to be that deep, and I'm not even measuring. These are not perfect lines, they're not perfectly straight, and this is just all it looks like. You can actually see that I have got the blue ballpoint pen there, but there is just a little indentations. And then for the next one, I'm going to do some very, very simple circles, again just with the pen. And again, I probably shouldn't have used something that actually has ink in it, but that's okay, we live and we learn, and I just usually grab what's closest to me. So this one, I'm just doing all different size circles, and I'm also going to make sure there's a few circles coming off these sides as well, so the pattern kind of looks like it carries on. And then that one is super simple, and then for the very last one I'm going to go even more plain, and I'm just going to draw one big kind of swirly thing and then a couple of little lines on the side, and we are done, and we have created our own stamps. Now fun foam works brilliantly for stamping. It is really kind of surprising to me how well this stamps. Now of course with different inks you are going to get different results. I prefer to use the VersaFine clear inks. I find that pigment inks tend to stamp a little bit better. I find that in general though, no matter what stamps I'm using, whether they are photopolymer, whether they're acrylic, whether they are fun foam, I tend to find that I get a better impression and more luck stamping with the VersaFine Clear. Of course you can use things like a stamping tool as well, and that will, a stamping platform, and that will help and make things better. But if I'm just stamping with hand, I tend to go for my VersaFine Clear inks. Now you saw how I attached those just with some double-sided tape, even some removable adhesive. Anything that you have is going to work. If you want to keep these permanently, then you could pop them onto some really rigid cardboard, or some bottle tops is really good, or anything. Just see what you have in your house and see if you can make it work. I did just get a little scrap piece of paper there and make sure that it was stamping nicely for the first time that I stamped it. I'm going to use the Warm Breeze color here, and I just wasn't quite sure where to stamp, but I'm going to press down, give it some decent pressure, and then I'm going to turn the stamp 90 degrees and stamp down again. Now I am not kind of lining this up perfectly. Remember that I also have filming equipment in front of my head, so I can't even get on top of my project if I wanted to. So the fact that these don't line up perfectly does not bother me at all. I don't think you kind of notice it in the end design, but if you're able to kind of get on top of your project a bit better, then you might be able to get them lined up a bit better. To me, as I said, this looks fine. And I debated with just leaving it like that. I really like those 4 squares, but decided to keep going. And for the minute, I'm just going to stick with one color. And I liked that, but then when I was thinking about what I might use it for and how I might turn this into a card, I am going to turn this one into a card for you. But I just was thinking maybe I'll carry it on and make kind of a strip that goes right down the front of the card. So all my dilly-dallying is just me picturing my future card and how I thought I might want it to go. So I created that pattern just by turning that little square block 90 degrees each time that I stamped, and then sometimes I look at the bottom of the stamp and kind of work out which way the lines need to go. But yeah, really simple, really crisp, beautiful stamping, and the lines being wavy is only the fact that that's how I drew them on my square. But yeah, really good stamping. Now here I decided that I would clean it off and show you that you absolutely can clean off the fun foam. I, as I said, used a ballpoint pen. So in between this, in between the little lines, you'll notice that there is a little bit of color, the blue from the ballpoint pen that I used, but you can wipe it off. I just used a little baby wipe there to double check and kind of give it a little wipe off. Then I'm going to stamp in orange, and it's going to stamp pretty jolly well. So the world is really your oyster when it comes to this technique. You can make any design yourself. You can go for gold. You certainly don't have to have little squares to stamp on. If you would like to run your fun foam through your die cutting machine, for example, if you wanted an oval or stars or hearts or circles or any shape that you have, you can cut out flowers, you can cut out really delicate images. Whatever you do, make sure that you run your fun foam with the die through your die cutting machine only one time. Don't be tempted to roll it backwards, because the fun foam stretches as it goes through your die cutting machine, and then when you put it back through, it will recut in a different place and you'll end up with kind of a halo double cut image. So it won't be a nice clean image that will come out. But I promise you, if you just run it through one time, your dies will cut through it perfectly and you'll have whatever stamp you need ready to go. So whatever dies you have, you can make them into stamps. Now I thought I would just show you one more quick option here. I'm going to use 3 colors instead of just sticking with one. These 3 colors, the orange is Summertime, the yellow is Cheerful, and the red is Tulip Red, and I'm going to kind of stick with one color for each stamp. Now I did decide that instead of having 3 patterns, that I would change it up and have one just a plain flat square that I didn't draw any design into as well. Now, if you don't have pigment inks, then of course you can give any of your other inks a go. I do find that the Catherine Pooler inks are really nice and juicy, and they work really well for stamping too. If not, then you can use a stamping platform just the way that you would any normal stamps. It's going to be a little bit trickier to kind of change them around all the time, but you could just have different spots in your stamping platform, kind of organize different corners. So where there is a will, there is a way, and you can kind of always make it work, I reckon. So this is where I decided that I would do just that plain square in yellow, and then I'm just going to follow the pattern through. I'm just whizzing through this because it's fairly obvious what to do at this point, but I think these all stamped really beautiful. None of the ink missed or skipped or anything. Given that these were just little homemade elements, I think this turned out pretty jolly cool. So I have 3 panels that I have created, and I wish I had time in this video to kind of turn all 3 into cards for you, but I thought I would just quickly whiz through one. And this is one of my little favorite go-to sets at the moment that I'm going to use for this card, just because I really like it and I feel like I can fit it with so many different occasions. So this is the Mystic Birds. I have used this on a few different cards now. Definitely a good handful of videos, and I just find that this is one of those birds that you can it's the perfect size and it's the perfect shape. Between the 2 birds, I feel like this covers a whole lot of bases. And when I'm looking for materials for products that I'm going to have in my collection, I really need them to be versatile so that I can use them for lots of different occasions. I can use them in lots of different ways. I could see this stamp even being stamped as an entire background over and over again. You could create patterns with the birds. I mean, I really do love this set. So I am going to color this using my alcohol markers. I have this 24 set, and these are the only alcohol markers that I own. These are perfect for me, someone who doesn't. I don't think this is probably my most favorite way of coloring, but I prefer it more and more so when all of the hard work of choosing the different blends is done for me. So there's a coral blend, an orange blend, and a citrus blend here. I think that's something that probably put me off in the past from alcohol markers, is that I feel like you have to have so many pens, and it feels like every time I come to use them I need to kind of go through and check out which colors might go together. I need to pre-test them and do it on scrap pieces of paper and things and work it out. Even with color charts and things like that, I just found it was like a little bit too overwhelming for me perhaps, and I would always just lean towards another method because it seemed much simpler. However, with the TriBlend markers, where all 3 markers are in one pen, so there's a light, a medium and a dark, that makes life a whole lot easier for me. So definitely, if you think it's not your thing, then these could be the markers that you would like to give a go. I'm not saying that they are for everyone, that's for sure. And we all have our kind of colouring methods that we lean towards and we prefer, and that's okay too, because it's good to be different and have your own style when card making or crafting or doing mixed media or doing scrapbooking or whatever you are into. Anyway, I'm just going to fussy cut out this bird, and I, as usual, cut off the feet because I will draw those in later. That fussy cutting those toes seems like just too much work for me. If I'm really interested, if you could let me know in the comments section down below, what are your favorite types of crafting? Are most people who watch these videos, are you guys card makers? Or do you kind of equally do scrapbooking or equally sewing or alcohol inks? What do you kind of lean towards when you are crafting? I would love to know. So drop me a message in the comment section down below. Coming back to my sentiment strips from Paper Rose Studios, I think they're called, and I must admit I am going to eat my hat here because I just thought these are something that I really didn't need and wouldn't love. However, I definitely have changed my tune. This is worth investing in. For the price of these, they have a pretty low price point, and this is a lot of, there are 12 pages and there's a lot of sentiments there. I think maybe even I underestimated how long those sentiments are going to last me. Now these are the Lacey Edges one. So there are 5 dies in here. These are from Pinkfresh Studios. I just felt like I wanted something a little bit extra to go down the sides of my background there. I felt like it was just a teensy tiny bit too plain, but you could leave this out. You could add real lace. You could add any little trim or border. You could just add some gold strips down the side. You could add, I mean, the options are endless. So as I had always planned to do, I'm just going to whip the edges off this and pretty much just keep them in line with where I was inking. And then all I need to do is put a little bit of double-sided tape down either side. I don't need to trim back the other side of the lace die because it's all going to be hidden. It gives me something to adhere it to. And then there is a little bit out the top and the bottom, which I probably just need to trim off to kind of straighten them up. I did pop a little bit of foam tape behind there just to give it a bit more dimension, and that helps the white on white kind of stick out a little bit more, that lace on the sides. And I'm going to line it up onto a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base. Then I am going to just put everything together. We are nearly done here. You can see that gorgeous little extra bit of lace just makes it stand out a little bit more. Again, a little gold strip down the edge here would have been beautiful too. I cut the branch a little bit shorter because it is nice and long, and I'm going to pop this down, just making sure my little birdie is going to kind of sit in the right place. This is when I'm going to bring in a little black marker just to draw in his leggies, and I just look at the packaging and copy exactly what was on there just so I can draw in his little feet, and then that way I don't have to fussy cut those. I definitely don't have the skills to fussy cut out something so tiny and delicate. Then once those are on, I'm just going to pop the bird down. I didn't think I needed any more dimension here because my original layer, my little background stamped layer, is already popped up. And if I'm going to run this through the post, then I try not to make double layers of foam tape anywhere. I pop a couple of little leaves just on the end, and it breaks up that gorgeous blue background. Just deciding which way around I wanted the big leaf to go. And then again, I've got Have the Best Day, and this could be used for a whole range of different occasions as well. So there is my card finish for today. I hope that you give this technique a go where you create your own stamps using Kids Fun Foam, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.